Hi everyone, we are Dani and Jamie from Books Are My Fandom. I'm Dani, and we're live for another round of BAMFs Aloud. This time we have Jodi Meadows, author of The Orphan Queen and many other things. But we're going to be talking about The Orphan Queen mostly today. So like I said, I'm Dani and I live in the UK.
I'm Jamie and I'm from Canada.
And Jodi is here to talk about her book and being an author. So let's start with you, Jodi. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your novel.
All right. I live in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. I can only hear people out of one ear right now because my kittens have destroyed the other one. And my book is set in a fictional Shenandoah Valley area, so the Orphan Queen anyway. And that one is kind of a young adult Game of Thrones meets Batman, about a princess whose kingdom is destroyed, and she lives in this opposing kingdom for a good long while. And she and her friends, who are the only nobility left from her home kingdom, they're trying to figure out a way to take back their kingdom. But it's a problem because, they're supposed to be dead. And also magic is destroying the world, this toxic byproduct of magic. And Wilhelmina, the princess, has magic. And since this magic is very illegal, there's a vigilante who hunts people with magic. Yeah.
Now that you said Batman, all I can think of is Black Knight as Batman, which is really strange.
I think if I could go back, I think I would say like maybe Flash or something, because Flash, at least TV Flash, is like so much more upbeat and optimistic. And Black Knight is not really, Batman, broody. I like the dark. And he's a lot more optimistic and cheerful. So
yeah. So
as an FYI, Dani and I are going to be reviewing The Orphan Queen on BAMF on November 24th, so that's on Thursday. And you'll also be able to see this video again. Just as a reminder, I also posted a Convince Me to Read review of My Lady Jane on October 29th, so you can check that out to see how much I loved that one. And we're going to start by asking Jodi some questions and then open the floor to you guys to ask some questions under the hashtag BAMFs Aloud on Twitter or on the YouTube page. I've seen a few already, and I've been copying and pasting them into our little document where we keep all that. So you can start asking your questions now, and then we'll choose some later on to ask in the show.
Awesome. Okay. So starting off, first question. So you've written Trilogy, you've co-written a book. Mm-hmm. So you've written everything, basically. So what is different about writing a trilogy versus writing a standalone versus writing a duology for you?
Well, I've only written one standalone so far, and that was really easy because I only had to write a third of it. And that was a lot of fun. I mean, basically it's a giant joke with my friends. So, it was just an incredible amount of fun, and it was very unusual. I don't think that, any writing experience ever is going to be like that again. It was trilogies, there's the whole 3 books that last for a long time. But the structure, I think, was a lot easier. There's a definite beginning, middle, and end. Whereas with a duology, the structure was very different because you only have 2 books, and then the middle of the entire story is this part between the 2 books. So, there's the beginning of the story, is in the first book, and then the first book has to have an end still, but it also has to be the middle of the overall story, which is a huge challenge. And then starting the next book, you're still in the middle of the story, but you also have to begin it.
Yeah, I never actually thought about that, but that does sound really complicated.
It did a lot of weird things in my brain.
Yeah, I can understand now why people don't often write duologies, because that sounds complicated. would you consider writing anything longer than 3 books, or do you think you'd get a bit bored with the story before you could
I don't
move
think I
on?
would get bored, but I think I would get itchy to write other things. My next book is going to be a trilogy. At one point in time, before I was published, I had this idea for a 5-book series. And looking back at that now, thinking about how much work even just, a single book is in publishing, I think like, wow, I'm glad that didn't happen.
Okay.
Okay, so next we wanted to know what the hardest scene to write in The Orphan Queen was.
Everything in the Mirror King. The Orphan Queen, like that book was actually, it was one of those gift books, I think. Just kind of fell out of my head. Not perfect, but in a similar form to how it is now. And I don't feel like I truly struggled with anything, or I could be just having like that rosy, euphoric recall of, that one was not nearly as hard as The Mirror King. And everything will be compared to The Mirror King in terms of how difficult it was, how much I wanted to set it on fire.
Was it like easier or more difficult to write the novellas then compared to the second book, or
everything was easier than the second book?
Okay.
But the novellas were kind of hard though, because I wasn't sure originally how many they would let me write. When I pitched the idea to my editor, she said, how many do you think you will write? And I said, as many as you will let me. And I had an idea, how I would do it. So when she said, okay, well, you can do 4, I worked to spread out, the chunks of the story into 4 pieces to, make sure it would all flow and be interesting enough to hold 4 stories.
Okay.
Cool. So next question. And this was actually really interesting to me. So can you sort of explain how Will's magic works and what it means that she has magic? Like, why does she have magic even though it's illegal in her world?
Magic is passed down through families. So her parents probably had magic. If she'd had siblings, it would be, chances are they would have magic. But it's illegal, so people who have magic just aren't supposed to use it. But for Wilhelmina, that would be like, not using one of her arms. It's part of who she is. Some people can get by with not using it, and it doesn't hurt them. But for Wilhelmina, it's really a part of her, and she loves her magic. Her power is to bring objects to life and make them do what she says. So she can just command things. So, she's unhappy with her house and where it is, she could command it to get up and move over a few streets or something.
That is so cool, though. So I was reading and I was like, I would just love to be able to tell things to do to work for me. Like, I don't know, when I didn't feel like writing, just telling the pen to just move, just please.
I would absolutely abuse that power too.
Yeah.
I think at this point, everybody would abuse that power. Like, everybody would be like, okay, I'm just too lazy to do this. Please just do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, yeah, I think I forgot in the movie WALL-E, like where everyone just sort of sits back and gets really fat and lazy because they can get computers to do everything for them. That's what I think would happen with me. I would just be sitting and I would be like, chair, move me or something. Wow. Yeah, that sounds like a good life. And and also in it, people get hunted for using magic. So
less of a good life.
Yeah, Does it give off a sort of trace, the magic in this world?
Yes, there's kind of like where there's smoke, there's fire. Magic has this toxic byproduct called the wraith,
Yeah.
and it smells funny. Sometimes you can kind of see it, and it causes just all sorts of trouble in concentrated forms. So it you can't really tell that somebody has used magic, necessarily. But if you know what to look for, if you're a really cool vigilante, maybe you have a better idea what's going on.
Okay. And sorry, I'm getting all of these questions on the side and I'm getting distracted now. What so there are lots of different types of power in the book. Aside from being able to move things around, what power would you like to have?
Well, there's another power mentioned in one of the books that is the power to make things appear and disappear. I think that would be pretty cool too.
Yeah, what would you make appear?
Cookies. And I can tell you exactly how I would make them disappear too.
You wouldn't need magic for that.
No, that one's all natural.
Okay. Jamie, do you want me to start with a couple of the audience questions?
Yeah, we probably should, because I've seen a couple as well. So
awesome.
You can go first, and then I'll take some of the ones that I've seen.
Okay, so I have one from Katie, and she wants to know what your greatest source of inspiration is, because she likes to use Pinterest.
Okay, Pinterest is a great tool. I have Pinterest boards too, mostly just neglected and hidden and for myself. But those are really cool. I think my greatest source of inspiration, though, is like consuming other stories, either movies or TV, or reading other books and researching and history. And those are the things I usually look to, or the things that usually spark ideas when I'm least expecting them.
Okay. And are you doing NaNoWriMo by any chance?
No, but I am writing, and I'm sobbing. So, I mean, I think we're all on the same page, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Jamie, do you have one?
I do. It's from Catherine. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the last name. I'm sorry. So it's, how do you develop your characters?
I feel like my characters, I usually go through a getting to know you process, and as I write, some things when I'm starting a story, I kind of just know about them, like first impressions sort of thing. But then as I'm writing my first draft, I usually learn more about them, see how they react to stuff, get to know more of their backstory and the word choices that they use, things like that. And then all of that, I have to go back in revisions and make sure that it's consistent, make sure I'm getting that depth, even from the beginning too.
Okay. And can you give us any information maybe about Will that hasn't shown up in the book, but is just something that you've discovered about her along the way, or one of the other characters?
Oh gosh.
Maybe something that you had to cut out or something?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something. It's been so long since I've worked on that I'm like, okay, I know there's something in there, but my brain has been really taken up with Before She Ignites and stuff, so it's hard to pull back, look at something else. I'm gonna have to think about that one. I don't have anything right off. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Okay, Jamie, any others?
Yeah, Catherine also wants to know what your writing process is like.
Catherine has a lot of questions.
It was all in one tweet, and I was like, I'll break it up into two.
I like questions. So my writing process changes with every book. Before I got published and before I wrote Incarnate, I used to I'd have an idea and I'd start writing. But now, when that didn't work, because I had written 16 books like that and nobody was buying them, I started writing things like synopsis, doing all of that stuff ahead of time, like doing a lot of world building, writing a synopsis, trying to figure out characters, backstory, things like that. And that for me was the thing that changed my whole process. Every book that I haven't written like that since Incarnate has not sold.
Okay.
Or I have not tried to sell because something is wrong with it. And I know that now because I have a different perspective on what my books look like having published. So now I do a lot more planning ahead. I write synopses. I have chapter outlines. Sometimes stuff changes. Sometimes it stays. It just depends. But I also try not to be too rigid. So if I'm going along with the synopsis and writing the first draft and something feels weird, then I don't force myself to keep going with what I had just because that was my synopsis and my original plan. My original plan can change and usually does.
Okay. And I'm just wondering if you, based on that, do you use any tools? Like, do you do everything on paper? Or do you put it on the computer? How do you actually, what tools do you use to do all that work?
I have a notebook for each story that I have, when I want to write on paper, I have that urge to write on paper, I do that. But usually I just write in Scrivener and I have all of my notes, all of my research in there. The other thing that I use is a program called Timeline that for my new book, I had to make up my own calendar for it. So I know.
Wow.
I know. When I realized I needed a new calendar for it too, that was my reaction also. Also, there were tears and some impolite words. So yeah, but I have that and I try to keep that updated also because it really does help me make sure that I have things moving along. But Scrivener, that's it. It's my main thing.
I also use Scrivener, but I use it for my term papers because I like that I can do different things. So shout out to Scrivener, although they are not paid product placement right now.
No, this is all free. This is genuine love. Okay.
Yes.
The YA Book Traveler asks, how many drafts of Before She Ignites have you written?
Oh my gosh. A lot? I haven't counted them, but I should. So I had a draft, like a partial draft of the book before it had a title or anything. That I had this structure in mind that I was going to do, like some serious parallel timelines, multiple points of view. It was going to be really complicated. And I remember sending that one to my editor or my agent saying, "What do you think?" And she said, "It's super confusing." And I said, "Okay, we'll fix it." So I did a lot of revision on that, but that wasn't a finished draft. I didn't actually finish the whole draft until after it sold, I think. So I don't know. It's hard for me to say how many drafts I do because I do a lot of revision, even full revisions, just in increments as I write my first draft.
Okay. The same, so the YA Book Traveler also wants to know if you can give us any sneak peeks from your next Lady Jane's book.
Like, I wonder what kind of sneak peeks people want. Do you have any
teasers?
Okay. Well, Charlotte is there, and a totally made up character is there. I don't want to say too much because I'm not the only one, involved in it. So if it were just me, I would definitely share a little bit more, but
Awesome. Jamie, do you have any more or?
No, I'm just like super excited. I was like, oh, sneak peek. Oh.
Well, there are 3 points of view, like there were in Lady Jane. And I don't think I write the one that you would expect me to write.
curious.
Mhm.
Well, while we're on the topic of My Lady Jane, what was the best thing about writing it with other authors, and what was the most challenging part?
Well, the best part was that I really only had to write a third. And I got to hang out with two of my best friends for a lot of time while we made each other laugh and really focused on having a good time with the book. I think the most challenging was probably trying to coordinate things when we were not together. We spent a lot of our drafting and revision time just like living together in the same house for a week at a time or so. And
wow.
That really made the process a lot of fun because we just lived our book. But when we had to come home, trying to coordinate our schedules, make sure that we could all access the draft and not have our computers slow down and crash and stuff, because not all programs like to have 3 people in there at once. That was tricky, but that was more of coordination and limits of software.
Okay. So people really want to know more about My Lady Jane.
Because it's so good, Dani.
Again, the YA book traveler wants to know if you have any word on a movie.
No word.
No word. I'm sorry, YA book traveler.
I really wish. It would be awesome.
And Katie wants to know when you started writing seriously.
In 2003.
Wow.
I had been writing before that as a teenager, but not super seriously and not well either. And in 2003, when I started writing seriously, I still was not writing well, but I was serious about it. I don't actually know when I got decent. There was a lot of writing in there, though.
Okay, how many novels are sitting there in on your computer or something that have never seen the light of day?
There were 16 novels before Incarnate.
Wow.
And and I have a couple more that I've written since then. That one I would really love to sell one day, and I think that it's getting close to the point where it could. And another, I don't know what's wrong with it. It's broken. I love it. There are a lot of pieces of it that I love, but there is definitely something that needs work. And if it's going to be a series, I need to know what happens in the other books before I even try. And I do, like most of those 16 novels, I think they're just there. I don't regret writing any of them, but I don't think I'm going to worry about them too much in the future. If anything, I'll use them for parts, or just take pieces from them, inspiration, ideas, characters, maybe. I do have one for sure that I want to go back and redo completely. Keep the characters the same-ish, but redo the world, redo the overall plot, that kind of thing.
Okay. And how do you deal with, do you experience writer's block a lot, and how do you sort of push through that?
For me, writer's block is usually better known as laziness. And I usually just have to tell myself, look, if you want to get paid, you have to sit down and write. You don't get paid for Twitter, unfortunately.
I know, I'd be so rich.
I know, I would. Me too. Sometimes when I'm having an actual block, as with the entire Mirror King experience, it was that something wrong was happening in the book. I had done something incorrectly, and I usually just need to think about it, step back, consider everything, and figure out what I've done wrong. That way I can go forward. And that's usually just the story's way and my brain's way of telling me that I messed up and I need to fix it. Because if I don't fix it and I keep writing, then I'm going to have to fix more, everything that my mistake affects. And the other possibility for me is that I'm stressed or overworked, very tired, I've been traveling, stuff like that. Just, you know, things that you need a break from in order to have the space to devote to writing. And sometimes that's it too. But usually, and honestly, it's laziness.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to take one more of these audience questions, and then I'm sorry, guys. We're going to have to stop because we can't go on forever, unfortunately. One of the questions is, did you create any new fun dragon sort of, I don't know, facts or whatever for before she ignites?
Yes. For in that book, in the world, there are a lot of different species of dragons. Sort of, or it's sort of like, we have a lot of different breeds of dogs, and they have different things. The same goes for dragons, and there's big dragons, little dragons, medium dragons, dragons that live in mountains, dragons that live on cliffs or by rivers, different things like that. And I have names for all of them, ideas about how their fire works, how their flight works, just all sorts of things like that. And they're like their temperaments. It's very nerdy.
I feel like you should write like a little guidebook.
I'm actually thinking about that. Like, just as not as a whole book, but just as like a supplementary. Like, if you are also a nerd about dragons, you might like these facts about dragons in Before She Ignites.
Awesome.
We'll see.
I think people would want that.
Yeah, like a little creatures guide. I would definitely pick that up.
I do actually have a mythological creatures like book on my bookshelf, because just facts about different creatures that don't even exist, so I don't even know why I have it. But okay.
Because you're a nerd too. Welcome.
The only book on my shelf that's not really a book is Hot Guys Reading. So,
Did I send that to you? No.
No, you sent me Men and Cats.
Oh yes, I sent you Men and Cats. I think I have excellent taste. Okay, so just a sort of a final question. So every time we do a show, I like to ask a would you rather question. So I just go to a random website, and choose a random question from there. And the question this time is, would you rather run for the rest of your life or crawl for the rest of your life?
Oh my gosh. Crawl. I am so bad at running. Like, I think I actually made myself sick earlier this year running because I had to catch a plane. I totally missed that plane, by the way. And for like 30 minutes after, I was just like wheezing and gasping. It was terrible. And I can't imagine doing that for the rest of my life. And crawling is very slow. And I think my hands and knees would probably hurt. But, if assuming knee pads and like gloves are an option in this, I think I could handle that.
You could also get like steel-toed boots so that your toes don't really drag too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think that's a good choice.
Thank you.
I think we would go for that as well.
Yeah. I'm just also thinking about like how toned my arms would be.
True. I might actually be able to do a downward dog. Because that didn't go so well when I tried yoga. My shoulders did not like that. Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's us for questions. Jamie, over to you.
Yeah, so if you watch our show, usually when it's just Dani and I, we do our top 5 countdown with our number 1 release for the next week. So because we have Jodi, we asked her what her favorite release of 2016 was, and she said The Star-Touched Queen. So if you want to tell us a little bit about why you like The Star-Touched Queen, which, I mean, I agree, but if you want to also tell us about it, that would be great.
I am a huge sucker for like beautiful writing. that is just like vivid and imaginative and surprising. And I think that Rajni did all of that in her book. I love the characters, and you know, they make choices, and the choices are not always good or the right choices. But you know, I also think it's really important for characters to occasionally make wrong choices. That's how they learn. That's how people learn, is by making wrong choices and then having to deal with that, and then having the strength to try to correct mistakes. And I think that was just one of the most beautiful things about the whole book.
I agree. I really liked actually how she took the idea of consequences and how to correct your mistakes, but not necessarily just going back, but learning from what you did and applying it to the future. I was
Yes, definitely
just blown away. But
I also want a sassy flesh-eating horse friend.
That too. Okay, so thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to tweet out links for where you can find Jodi's book. And again, we're reviewing The Orphan Queen on Thursday. And just as an FYI for you guys, because Dani and I are so busy with school right now, we're taking a bit of a hiatus from BAMFs Aloud. We're going to continue blogging, obviously, and we still have reviews coming up. But you can see us live again on December 31st for a special New Year's Eve BAMFs Aloud. And we're going to be talking about our favorite books from the year and then give you guys a preview for what's to come on Books Are My Fandom in 2017.
Yes, I will be in South Africa, so that'll be a fun show because I'm hoping the internet is going to be my friend. But yeah, South Africa.
I'll still be in Canada. But
it'll
in a
be
different
hot
city.
where I am. Yay!
It's hot where I am right now. It'll hopefully be cold when I go back home. So
I hate you. I want hot. It's so cold. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, thank you. Thank you, Jodi, for joining us. Thank you to everyone that was watching. And thank you guys for asking so many questions. I'm sorry I didn't ask Jodi all of them, but I'm sure if you guys tweet them, she might, you know, be able to answer for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, look for our tweets and look out for our show on New Year's Eve, because clearly talking about books is a lot better than going to a New Year's Eve party.
I agree.
well, it is at like 3 p.m. for me, so I could still go to a New Year's Eve party, but I'm not. So
you could just say you have busy, book things to do.
Oh no, we're hosting a readathon on New Year's Eve, so
See?
I can't even pretend that I just have no life.
It'll be 10 p.m. where I am when we go live, so
that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jodi, and see you guys in a month and a bit. Bye.
Bye.